EKURU AUKOT.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Are you happy?
I'm very happy with myself, and I'm happy with the developments. And I'm thinking that change is not easy. We must always, like I'm reminded of the wisdom of Martin Luther King Jr. That he says, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. Or whatever the means, keep moving.
Keep moving.
So we at Third Way Alliance Kenya, we are keeping on the move. We are challenging the constitutionality of this 2022 general election. We want absolute compliance with the rule of law, with the constitution, and there should not be any excuse. And right now what people are trying to say to us is that, it's only 30 days to election. Why are you doing this?
Why are you disrupting things?
A wrong is a wrong. I mean, it doesn't matter, even if it is at the 24th hour.
Even at the altar, the bride can say, I do not.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's why even the pastor, the priest will always ask, is there any objection? Anyone here with an objection? So even at the last hour, we must correct a wrong. And if the constitution is not followed, if the law is not followed, then it's an illegality ab initio. And that's why for us at Third Way Alliance Kenya, we are very happy. People are laughing at us when we challenged Chebukati and his crooked ways of trying to follow the nomination process. Actually, I call him now clueless Chebukati, because this man, to be honest with you, first of all, is supposed to be at the level of a Supreme Court judge as a chairman of IEBC.
Supreme,
yes.
Okay. Judge of a superior court.
Yes, the apex court in this country. And this man has actually failed the test just to read the law as it is. To be honest with you, at some point I actually get embarrassed, Latif. Sometimes I get so pissed off that how do I share a profession with some people who cannot read a basic provision of the law?
You have read too much. No. Hold on. Let's bring everybody up to speed.
Okay.
Something happened at the High Court yesterday.
Yes.
And this was a ruling by Justice Anthony Mrima.
Yes.
And this is after an application that had been taken to them by Third Way Alliance, among others.
Yes, Ruben Kigame and Kadangu. I'm the one actually who did the petition.
Yes.
Yeah.
And others. And this was questioning why IEBC was requiring candidates to bring copies
of IDs.
Yes. As part of the nomination process.
Yes.
Now, the judge yesterday said that actually that requirement goes contrary to the law, the Constitution, and even the Data Protection Act and other provisions, and says such requirement
is irrelevant.
Yes. Okay. And that is the reason why EKURU AUKOT is very happy today.
Yes.
And that's the reason why now EKURU AUKOT is stepping back and questioning the interpretation of the law by the people who've been given the mandate to manage our election. Now we are at par.
Yeah.
Higher now to the left. So
the judge also went ahead and actually drew parallels to the whole aspect of verification of supporters to any law or constitutional change. For example, he cited ably the Punguza Mizigo Kenya Constitutional Amendment Bill of 2019. He cited the BBI, and he asked Chebukati, what does verification actually mean? Okay? If you are verifying data of supporters, remember, we are supposed to give a supporter list, then copies of IDs. What we told the judge, and he agreed with us, first of all, nobody, and you guys are journalists, you have good guys out there, no single presidential candidate photocopied a single ID of any Kenyan. None. So the supposed photocopy of IDs, which we question, and we asked Chebukati, bring them. In fact, today we are in court at 3 p.m. where we have asked Chebukati, bring the photocopies of all those ID documents and the supporter list of the guys you have nominated. Let's do a court-sponsored scrutiny. Yeah, Latif, I'm not a prophet of doom, neither am I the son of one, but I assure you, the IDs and the supporter list will never match because nobody went to look for. First of all, it's impractical. If you ask me to go, I don't know, whatever your rural villages are, but if you ask me to go to Kapedo, where I come from, definitely I will have to carry with me a generator, a photocopier, cartridges, or alternatively, I'll have to collect IDs of individuals, go either to a cyber cafe, photocopy them, and then bring them back.
Yes.
Nobody did that.
Are you saying fellow lawyers, David Mwaure Waihiga,
Yes.
fellow lawyer, Professor George Ojakoya, did not do this?
Let's add the list. Raila Amolo Odinga and William Ruto. None of them did that. And I challenge them. And that's why today we have asked them, come to court at 3 p.m. Bring copies of your IDs, bring copy of your supporter list. I want a court-sponsored scrutiny. Because after all, nomination is transparent. You know, election is very transparent.
Yes.
It's supposed to be accountable. So let's do it. And first of all, we even need to go further. We have even questioned the educational qualification of some of the individuals that have been nominated. For example, if Chebukati nominated Walter Mongare, a.k.a. Nyambane, based on transcripts. And then he tells EKURU AUKOT that your certificate was not certified by the university, even though it was certified by a commissioner for oaths and notary public. What nonsense is that?
Okay, so is it on this basis then, EKURU, that you're saying, because you're not just talking about the constitutionality of the process, you're talking about the constitutionality of the entire election.
Absolutely.
And you're saying that now, based on some of these processes that we are saying, the entire election then cannot hold.
Has been
Are we
bungled.
going as far as that because of these processes in between?
Remember, in 2013, 2017, the Supreme Court of Kenya made a declaration that election is a process. And so did IEBC agree that it's a process. It's not an event. So if you mess up in the process, then you are messing with the entire election. Okay? For example, let me give you examples. When Ojakoya took his nomination papers, his supporter list to IEBC on the 25th, the same time I took on 25th of May, he was short of 7 counties. Okay? He only took 17 counties. IEBC gave him time to go and regularize. The same thing with Mwaure Waihiga. Yeah? I took 27 counties. Yeah? And IEBC confirmed, yes, indeed, I've brought 27 counties. And that's why I was given an appointment to appear before IEBC to present my nomination papers on the 5th of June, 2022. But IEBC said to me that you are short of 1 county. Never accounted for 4 of them. And we asked IEBC. We wrote to IEBC on the 5th. We wrote to IEBC on the 9th. No response. Only when they were dragged to court by myself, June Juliet Munyeki, that's when IEBC produced a report of verification in defense of their action. But never produced a report in defense of my action. Just the other day, when we now drag them to court, that's when they've now produced a verification report on EKURU AUKOT. So what I'm saying is this, the entire process has to be seamless. If it is not, it's going to cost Kenyans money. We have got a very clueless fellow who cannot read the law at the helm. He's the guy who is going to probably, like they said, I think it was Joseph Stalin who sometimes back said that those who cast the vote decide nothing, but those who count the vote decide everything. So I'm worried that to have somebody like Chebukati who cannot even read a simple provision of the law presiding over our election is the guy who may decide everything for us, even though we may cast the vote on the 9th of August, 2022.
And you're basing this on the fact that there was one issue that you took to court yesterday and the courts agreed with you.
There are many issues. For example, Eric, if you tell me, EKURU AUKOT, your check is incorrectly addressed, it's a banker's check, remember. I'm not a bank. I'm not the drawer of the check. It's a simple administrative issue. All you can tell me, go and regularize. Can you get us a check written properly? I can then call my bank and tell them, this check is correctly, addressed. For example, in the case of Reuben Kigame, my friend Reuben Kigame took his supporter list, and then he was told, no, you have not met the threshold of 24. Go regularize, but we'll give you an appointment. When he went to Bomas of Kenya, they locked him out. They locked him out. Can you imagine?
He did not get the opportunity.
He did not even get the opportunity to present to argue his case. Yeah. Yet some other people were treated, favorably. Yeah. And I've argued here before, I think in your show earlier, that, for example, IEBC has nominated a person who is supposed to be a member of 2 political parties. Don't look at me like that, because it's a fact. In their own court papers, they admit that Raila Amolo Odinga is a party leader of ODM, but he's also a member of Azimio.
Yes.
Now, let me walk you through the nomination process.
Here we go. Okay.
At Bomas of Kenya. When you go to Bomas of Kenya, when you went to Bomas of Kenya, desk number 1 is to confirm your compliance with Article 137 of the Constitution of Kenya. Are you a Kenyan? Are you a registered voter? Can we see your ID? You produce your ID. Then move to desk number 2. Desk number 2 is, are you a member of a political party? A fully registered political party. A political party in Kenya must have natural human beings,
members,
registered persons. So there's a man called, there was an IEBC officer there who now say, okay, give me your membership ID document. Then they key in your details. Then they show you in a iPad that, yes, indeed, you are actually a member of Third Way Alliance Kenya, you're a member of KANU, you're a member of WIPA, you're a member of ODM. Now, how did the Azimio la Umoja candidate go beyond that desk?
He was a member of ODM.
Exactly. ODM never nominated a presidential candidate.
ODM is a member of Azimio.
It's a member of Azimio, yes. But Azimio la Umoja Coalition Political Party is a corporate body of party membership, whose membership is only political parties. Okay? So if they have to nominate a candidate, it has to be a member of their party. Let's take the argument further. The Political Parties Act prohibits one from being a member of 2 political parties.
At any one time.
You cannot be. So either you're a member of one party or you're not. So again, clueless Chebukati nominates these candidates. That's why I'm telling you, the entire process is actually shambolic. As a matter of fact, if you have to give credit to William Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza, they were clever. They never nominated him a Kenya Kwanza candidate. They gave him a UDA certificate. And that's why I think, he may be safer. But the other guys, completely.
EKURU, when you took this petition to court a few short weeks ago, and then now with Justice Mrima's ruling yesterday, what does this mean? I mean, we see that what it does is open the door and it allows would-be aspirants to go then and petition IEBC to be re-allowed on the ballot, etc., etc. But what does it essentially mean now?
What it means is this. One, that we have got a sham presidential nomination process. It was never in accordance with the law. And that's what Justice Mrima said. If you cannot introduce, for example, an amendment to the Constitution through the back door, called General Regulation 18.2C, of the Elections Act. So if you have applied such an irregularity in nominating people, it means the entire process is shambolic. It's a nullity ab initio. So we don't have presidential candidates as we speak, based on that judgment. We have to go back to the drawing board. The other elections can continue.
But the presidential one, no.
But the presidential one, no, cannot continue. And that's why for us, we have prayed that the ballot papers should not be printed.
But he did not give any order to IEBC.
Well,
He did not give any order to the IEBC.
He made a declaration on the basis of that. It's simple. That's why, again, I go back to the role of the chairman of IEBC, who is supposed to be a person in the standing of a Supreme Court judge. So he needs to purposively interpret that judgment of the court. And if they are not going to do it, purposively, I'll still move to court and ask the court to enforce
because
that
that
judgment.
would be my next question
Yes.
then, because then he's left it open. Almost as though the door is open and saying anybody then who would petition and say, based on this ruling moving forward, until and unless something is petitioned by one party or another, that the process will continue.
No, the process cannot continue because the judge has already found an illegality.
He's not stopped the process.
The judge has already found an illegality in the nomination process itself.
Right.
So it cannot continue because he has already made that finding that it was illegal, it was unconstitutional. So how can you then carry on an unconstitutional process?
But then you then also say that the interpretation of that ruling.
It's left to the IEBC.
Yes, and you also say that the chairman of the IEBC has the position not just of an appellate court, but of the Supreme Court. So, if he interprets it to mean whatever it is he feels is interpreted, would that not be a superior interpretation? And will it not? Well, I'm simply following the logic of your argument.
Sitting.
Yes, please.
The basic is this. The process has been found to have been unconstitutional. So what more interpretation do you want to give it beyond that?
Well,
you can only say, because they have been adjudged to have supervised an unconstitutional process, I cannot continue with this process. That is the simple interpretation. There's nothing more. I mean, what more can you interpret
Actually,
to remedy that?
Interpretation,
Not
but
really.
there must be then subsequent action. EKURU. And
Exactly.
this is the thing. Do you really think that the vanguards of the process right now, even after having heard a high court order, are going to say, well, it's been found unconstitutional, so let's drop everything? And do you really think they're going to do that? Until and unless there is a further order to the same.
No. They can't.
Do you really think that they're going to drop all that has been done and then move forward?
There cannot be any further order on the finding of unconstitutionality of the action of
actually,
Chebukati.
there can be. What if it is appealed?
Let them appeal, but so long as they have not appealed, that is the order that stays.
Yes.
That is a finding. So the finding of
the finding is...
Is
That is the
it's
finding.
Binding.
Yes, it's binding. It's binding. So you cannot say now,
You know.
let's now interpret it. What will you interpret to say what?
Or give me an order.
Dr.
You have found it's unconstitutional. So what do you want me to do?
I actually like what he's saying, because remember the question we asked the Chief Justice here with respect to people who've been found guilty and those who've been impeached. Okay? So essentially, if you've been found guilty by High Court, you're guilty until proven otherwise. So how is it then that people who are found guilty, sentences pronounced, can still vie, and yet, by your argument, they're guilty?
Let me tell you, the mere act of an appeal does not take away a conviction or a finding of guilt.
What does it do?
It does not. So, again, this is where, for me, I will say Chebukati remains a clueless fellow who should not have nominated certain individuals based on a finding. Because you cannot tell me, City, I've been, if you are convicted, you are a convict.
Yep.
Yes, you are.
Even if you appeal,
You're still a convict.
Appeal has not taken away that conviction.
Yes.
Yeah? You are a convict. So you cannot be until you clean yourself up.
So in this case, even if you appeal, it doesn't take away from the unconstitutionality of this process that we are talking about.
It does not. Unless a superior court now,
Unless
now a superior court says
Pronounces
the
something
Court
different.
of Appeal says, no, the judge was wrong in interpreting the law. But as far as we are concerned now, the finding of Justice Anthony Murima stands, that the process of nominating these 4 presidential candidates or even the aspirants was unconstitutional.
Explain something to me here.
Yeah.
Why is it then that when matters go to the Court of Appeal, it's never one judge determining it? It's a bench of 3 judges, etc., etc. Why?
Sometimes,
Yes.
okay, the optics in legal practice are sometimes one judge doesn't want to be muliquad, if I can use that word. Yeah. So a bench, you spread the risk. No, even in the High Court, it does happen. And sometimes also litigants will say, I don't want the judgment of only one person.
Yeah.
Can I have the
I want a
benefit of 2,
balanced
3, other people? Because, and that's why now the rules have changed. Each and every judge must write their own opinion or judgment.
EKURU, there's a gentleman who listens to the show on a daily basis, and I think that he's asked this question, and I think he's asked this question possibly every day for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And I think it now marries very well with you being here. And he has asked, can any credible election be held by clueless Chebukati, according to you, and the intimidated and compromised IEBC on August 9th, 2020, not merely the supposed invalid presidential polls, but all elections at all levels?
To be honest with you, based on the behavior of Chebukati, let me take you back memory lane. In 2019, when we submitted the Punguza Mizigo Constitutional Amendment Bill, Chebukati dilly-dallied on it. It took about 5 months. 5 months to verify 1.4 million signatures supporting the Punguza Mizigo Bill. Fast forward, 2020, BBI. BBI takes about 4.5 million or 5 million, as they claimed, which were collected within, I don't know, a week or something like that. When we took a whole 1 year to collect the 1.4 million signatures. Chebukati took less than a month to verify for about 5 million signatures. 2022, the verification of presidential nominations, it's about, give and take, about 6 million signatures in total. And Chebukati takes less than 10 days to verify. And that's why the question of verification, the accountability of that verification is now an issue. How did you verify? And the judge, by the way, drew parallels with Punguza Mizigo BBI, the verification, and asked Chebukati, how come during the Punguza Mizigo and BBI, you did not ask for photocopies of IDs? Look at the ridiculous thing Chebukati asked me. He asked me a EKURU degree certificate. Can you imagine? Chebukati even doubts I have a degree. I mean, I don't doubt my degree. If he doubts, let him ask, write to the Kenya school, I mean, the Faculty of Law, University of Nairobi, or University of Nairobi, and ask them, did EKURU AUKOT attend the University of Nairobi? He can even write to Warwick University in the UK and ask whether this guy did postgraduate there. It's up to him. But on the same vein, he says, bring photocopies of IDs which are not certified, which we cannot authenticate. So on one hand, bring me a certified degree certificate. Yeah. On the other hand, bring me 48,000 photocopies of IDs which are not authenticated. And the judge asked that question. This inconsistency, how does it hold? So, to your question, with all this behavior, cantankerous behavior of clueless Chebukati, why should anybody trust him to actually hold this election? And let me take you back again to 2017. It was again in 2017 when the Supreme Court of this country found that Chebukati had committed irregularities and illegalities. And they nullified...
Not the commission, Chebukati.
It's the national returning officer.
I'm merely asking because there needs to be clarity.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you something else about Chebukati has done in this nomination process. He was found to have committed irregularities and illegalities, and that's why the election of 2017, August, was nullified. What did clueless Chebukati do again? He went and only gazetted 2 people, Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Again, it was yours truly who went to court before Justice John Mativo.
And said,
we won that petition and said, you know what Chebukati has done is an illegality, is unconstitutional.
He was conducting a runoff.
He was conducting a runoff. Now, yes, instead of a fresh election under Article 140, Sub-Article 3. Now, do you know the other thing that Chebukati has done in this 2022 process? He was gazetted as the National Returning Officer for Wafula Chebukati. Gazetted as the National Returning Officer for presidential election. Okay? So we appeared before him. When I appeared before him on the 5th of June, I was armed with an objection to this photocopy of IDs, which I served him. I even served him a complaint about a candidate he has nominated who is not fit to run for election. That's Raila Amolo Odinga. He refused to accept our complaint at that time and said, no, I'm not sitting here as a commission. I'm sitting here as the National Returning Officer. Now, let's go to the dispute tribunal. After his shenanigans, he disqualified many of us. So we take him to the dispute tribunal, his own dispute tribunal. Chebukati, clueless Chebukati, runs away from defending himself. He asks a fellow called, I can't remember the name of the officer. There's Owie, there's another guy, Sunkuli. They are the ones who saw affidavits in defense of the action of the National Returning Officer. Now, Sunkuli is not a gazetted National Returning Officer. Neither is Ohuye. And Chebukati told us, I'm here as the National Returning Officer. So he talked to me as the National Returning, not as the commission.
Not as the commission chair.
Not as the commission chair. But the fellow runs away from defending his own action and brings in a Sunkuli and somebody Ohuye to swear the affidavit.
Did he commit an irregularity in doing so?
Of course it's an irregularity.
How?
Because I don't know who Sunkuli is. Sunkuli is a stranger to me. Yes. I never appeared before Sunkuli. I never appeared before Owie. For him to swear an affidavit to defend the action of my disqualification. I want the National Returning Officer called Wafula Chebukati to defend himself. Yeah. Because he must stand by his own action. And that is our stand as Third Way Alliance Kenya. We must defend the rule of law. People must take personal responsibility. And let me tell you, Eric, this is not yet over. If Kenyans are going to lose billions because of the inactions and malpractices of Wafula Chebukati, I personally will sue him
to recover the
that
billions.
money. Even if it means auctioning him as a person, we'll sell him.
Rambo Rouser, Dr. EKURU AUKOT is here with us in the studio. He is the party leader of Third Way Alliance. He was the CEO of the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review. They drafted this constitution. So he's talking about it.
Let me tell you,
He knows it.
I lost sleep. I remember one of the occasions when we were writing this constitution. I'll go to bed at 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. we were required to be before the Parliamentary Select Committee to present our views. So I don't joke around when I talk about this constitution because I worked hard for it.
And you've consulted also
Yes.
for other countries that have written their constitutions.
I
Okay,
have.
I want us to take a break. It's 25 minutes to 10. As we go into this election, those who hope it happens and those like EKURU who are not even sure whether it should happen, remember,
But
it's
Eric,
elections.
you know, we are talking about 40% of Kenyans who are so undecided. We are saying
Elections-
they will never participate in this election.
Elections bill a norma. Peace.
I agree.
We go with peace, right?
And we must start by following the law, the constitution, and the rules of managing the election, because election is a process that has been established by even the ICE court in this land. So when you have got a fellow like Chebukati, who even, by the way, was not the best candidate, he wasn't. You can check the facts. He actually, I think he was number last or number 7, if I'm not wrong. He was only picked just as a compromise. And I think that's why he has a script. And he's messing up this election and is likely to put this country into turmoil.
You know, you're bringing this thing in a conversation about peace. You just started by agreeing that, you know, we need to have
Yes.
peace
And
calm.
and then after the statement on peace, he now comes out combative. Okay?
But
With the guns trained.
Elections, EKURU,
My city.
elections,
If somebody-
bila norma.
no, let me
Okay?
tell you, you know, election also in Kenya, and election everywhere.
Okay,
It's
let's
a
take
very
a-
emotive
Let's
thing.
take a break.
Okay.
23 minutes to 10.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In the studio, the party leader of Third Way Alliance, a man who is, according to his own definition of himself, a fighter and defender for this constitution. One who even went around the country and said, we need to make sure that this constitution now addresses the issues and the needs of Kenyans. The Punguza Mzigo.
Punguza mizigo.
Punguza mizigo.
Umezaa mzinga sana.
You can't even equate that
Mzinga.
slip to Freud.
Uko
Sorry.
ukingoni wa ulimi.
No.
No. I cannot even sleep on the
No,
time.
no.
Hey, pole. Punguza mizigo campaign. Yesterday got a ruling in your favor in the High Court,
Yeah.
which says, you know, this whole requirement by the IEBC for copies of IDs of your supporters is unconstitutional. So,
And also a violation of the Data Protection Act.
yes,
And it was not also possible to actually do that. The judge also went ahead to say that it's not, it's not consistent with other verification exercises that you have taken in the past, and the verification of Punguza Mizigo Kenya, BBI. So he told IEBC you have to be consistent.
So what do you want to do next?
What I want to do next is we'll give Chebukati an opportunity. One, to exit IEBC. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Chebukati must exit IEBC because, to be honest with you, he has, like, I think that judgment, if you are to liken it to a criminal conviction, Chebukati is convicted of having violated the constitution. You know. Let me tell you. Sweetie,
Daktari, you are interpreting the law and you're imputing. Okay?
you know, Sweetie. Let me give you an example. If today I'm hungry and I go into somebody's farm and I steal a cobweb, you know, a cob of maize or a chicken.
I heard a cobweb.
Just carry on.
A cob of maize.
We carry
okay.
on.
Yeah, that's
Carry
now
on.
that's now a split. You know,
That was the Freudian slip.
yes.
Yes, don't worry.
So,
I think there were two conflicting things going on in his mind.
cobwebs.
A web of intrigue.
gonna say,
Plus,
man.
then you think about maize
I
and
know
the
there's
cob
no
element
maize,
in
but
it.
I didn't know we were
No, but then continue.
Okay, so
Continue.
So
And
let me.
Eric.
I will ignore Eric. I mean, but anyway, at least I've made you laugh this
least.
morning.
Oh, yes.
It's a Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So at least I'm making you laugh. But anyway, let me just draw parallels to an ordinary Kenyan committing a crime, a simple crime like, say, theft of a chicken or a maize or whatever, you know, you will have offended a law called the Penal Code, you know, and you'll probably be jailed for months or years. But then there's the highest law in this land, which is actually the social contract called the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, which is really a social contract between all the 50 million Kenyans, okay? So you have somebody who violates that law, the Grundnorm, as we call it in legal terminology. And then this person just walks free after violating this constitution, which is really a violation on all Kenyans. It's not a violation on CT's farm when I steal sugarcane. or a cob of maize, not a web, or a chicken. Okay. You see, this is a violation against a person. But here I'm violating the entire Republic of Kenya.
Yeah.
By not following that law. And then I walk away and I'm still in the office, receiving a salary, security, retirement benefit, and all that. We must find a way of criminalizing a violation of the Constitution.
So what you're
saying...
And
that's why for me I'm saying the first action really should be for Chebukati to exit IEBC immediately, because he has proved to be incapable, incompetent, and clueless about the law.
Okay.
And we are relying on this law to manage our elections so that we can avoid, for example, the violence that you are fearing. You know, we can have a peaceful election. Because if the election is not managed within the framework of the law and the Constitution, violence.
What you're saying is that if what you say is what we agree with and believe as you do, you're saying the foundation for an election that is unstable is actually in the process of being made.
Absolutely.
So that when we talk about having an election bila norma, we are creating an election ambayo itajana norma.
Kabisa. And you know, let me tell you, and then we go back even to the idea of is it timely to actually stop this election?
Yeah.
It is okay to stop even at the 11th hour. Article 259 of our Kenya Constitution says any person can actually go to court, move court, to claim that the Constitution is being violated or is threatened with violation. If it is threatened with violation, then we must stop that action. And for me, what I'm saying, Chebukati's actions and IEBC, and if they're not careful, by the way, let me tell you, I will sue each one of them individually for personal responsibility. Each of the commissioners. They cannot hide behind the institution called IEBC and commit atrocities and violations of the Constitution or threaten to violate the Constitution. That is the law that Kenyans gave to ourselves.
I almost hear you saying that because there is no questioning of these processes, apart from, you know, folks like yourselves, that then the rest of the population is carried on in this thing, assuming that every process that is being carried out is being done in a lawful manner. Exactly.
That is the assumption, that people are assuming that what Chebukati is doing is right. But until we went to court and we, I mean, I'm a participant in this process, just like I participated in 2017. So I've tested it raw, I've done politics raw. So I know what it means to go through the rigors of political quest or contest. So I can tell Kenyans today, what Chebukati did was illegal, it was wrong. Yeah, and I'm also now telling Kenyans, let me ask you, Eric, if today, any of your listeners, I want anybody right now to write to us and say, I gave photocopy of my ID. Let's test that question right now.
Well, they've heard you, and I'm sure they
will.
Who
gave a photocopy of the ID
exactly.
to a presidential aspirant?
Yes. But let's ask that question.
Daktari, there's something that you learned friends sometimes confuse us with. Yeah? When a learned friend talks about the law and their understanding of it, what we normally refer to as an interpretation, there is an absoluteness with which they speak. For instance, we have a situation where the High Court has pronounced its understanding of this matter and determined that it is unconstitutional. If it goes to the Court of Appeal, they may come up with an understanding that agrees either with this verdict or contradicts it. Now, in the same way, one Mr. Chebukati is a lawyer, a learned friend like yourself. Now, some of the pronouncements he makes, which have been deemed unconstitutional by this particular ruling of the High Court, hasn't been definitively and conclusively determined until it goes through these other processes, Court of Appeal, perhaps the Supreme Court. There's somewhere I'm going with my argument. I am saying,
I'm listening.
You as a legal mind is speaking about what I could even argue is your understanding, which has been agreed with by the High Court. What if there were other minds speaking on these things, legal minds, and their views were different from yours?
Unfortunately, CT, there can only be one decision maker. The judge made a decision.
That is why you went to
That
court.
is the judgment. That's why we went to court. You see, we can all have different interpretation of the law, understandings of the law. Okay? But if there is a problem or conflict in the way in which we understand the law, we go before the habiter. And the habiter here is the High Court. And we went before Justice Mrima. He has pronounced himself conclusively on that issue, unless there is an appeal on it. But as far as it stands right now, it's conclusive.
That is it.
That's it. And that's why I'm saying, even let's go back to now the realpolitik. Let's ask our listeners here, who actually gave a photocopy of the ID to a presidential aspirant or candidate? Let me tell you.
You didn't ask me, I would have given you. But
No, but
you
Eric,
didn't ask.
could
I
you
didn't
have given me a photocopy of your ID?
Yes.
Ah,
I was saying
Chebukati.
earlier, I give this thing to every hotel I go to. Your hotel, they ask, give. Enter a building, give. What is it? If I trust
But-
EKURU or AUKOT,
But we have a
I
law called the
trust
Data
you.
Protection Act.
Now that's the secondary bit.
Yes, we have the Data Protection Act, which is about the right to privacy.
Yeah.
And the judge actually speaks about all that in his judgment. In fact, I'm going to send you this judgment. I'm getting it today at about 10 a.m. I'll send it to you.
Explain
Let's
to
all
us that
read it.
data protection bit.
Yeah. You see, the Data Protection Act basically says that your information is private to you. I mean, look, one of the examples we used in this petition in convincing the judge is the fact that today that you've heard about SIM swap.
Yes.
Yeah. And how people are being scammed of thousands and millions. Of Kenya shillings from just a phone alone. I mean, swapping your SIM. So you know what? When I went around actually asking Kenyans to support my candidate, guys were telling me, EKURU, we like your Punguza Mizigo. We want you back into the race, and please bring Punguza Mizigo back. But ID yangu sitakupatia. They were very categorical. Why should I trust a politician, because a Kenyan politician, for that matter, with my private documents? Somebody came and tell me, si hata shamba yangu utaniuzia. Yeah? And it's not possible. Let me tell you, I can now tell you without fear of contradiction, those supposed ID copies are either lifted from the national, the register of persons, or NTSA, or you remember the Safaricom a few months before that, Safaricom was asking people to
Even yours
register.
that you handed over? Are you saying
refuse.
even yours as well that you gave over to the IEBC then were not legitimate in terms of collection?
By the way, do you know one of the things that the judge pointed out? How can IEBC ask people to bring photocopies of IDs? It does not have a depository of ID documents. Yeah?
So
it does not
against
have.
what will they come?
Exactly. And that is the question. We are verifying it against what data? You see, like when we took the soft copy, like the voter supporter list, they asked us to bring a soft copy and a hard copy. So we took a stick. They ran it against their mother database of about 22 million registered voters. That's why they confirm, okay, the supporter list is okay, they're registered. Now, against
ID.
what database did they run for the IDs? And that's what I'm saying. Election being a process, IEBC and Chebukati, clueless Chebukati, I'm sorry, that is his other name now, clueless Chebukati, has actually bungled this election.
So I want to ask you, you said you're giving him an opportunity to internalize what Justice Mrima said and exit. What if he doesn't?
I think, to be honest with you, I'm not the only one who is against Chebukati right now. Even if he took an opinion poll, people have lost faith in Chebukati as a person. I remember, as I said to you, we have to go back to 2017 when he also messed up the 2017 general election. Why should we allow this person, even looking at what we have already pointed out, to risk messing up this election again in 2022? After all, Kenya is not short of competent people. And City, we could all go to school of law, but we also graduate with different stages in our degrees. Yeah? Some people could have been passengers in just a...
Wow.
Yeah? No, you can attend a university, but you could have just been,
Daktari, one of the things that is certain is that
we have so many uneducated illiterates in this country.
You seem to have very little regard for one Mr. Chebukati.
I do.
Because you do. And the fact that his views differ from yours, yes, the referee, the High Court, has given their verdict on this matter, we understand. But to render an individual clueless, and he's been running an organization like IEBC for these years, it's a bit much.
Because he's a puppet. I mean, you can be there.
You do not have evidence to prove that he's a puppet.
You can run an institution, but as a stooge, as a puppet. That happens.
Dr. You know as well as I do that you don't have empirical evidence to prove that he's a puppet or that he's a stooge. It's a view you're expressing, but there is no evidence that you've adduced to or that you've said this is what makes him a puppet.
City, can I give you evidence?
Please
let me give you evidence.
Yes.
2017, I was a presidential candidate. Okay, I used the same documentation that I used this year, and the same Chebukati qualified me or nominated me to run for president of Kenya in August. Okay?
Yes.
He did. In 2022, he tells me, EKURU, your certificate is not certified. Same certificate. And by the way, I used the same soft copy of the certificate.
So in 2017, he wasn't clueless.
Yeah?
So in 2017, he wasn't clueless.
You know, if he follows the law and the rules, I have no problem. But if all of a sudden you become conveniently forgetful, you are clueless. In the repeat election, this is another piece of evidence. Instead of following the constitution that says, repeat the election under Article 140 sub Article 3, fresh election, those are the words in the Constitution City. Sio zangu. Yeah? And what does clueless Chebukati do? He goes ahead and gazettes only 2 individuals. Again, I had to go to court and ask Justice Mativo, what Chebukati has done is an illegality. And the judge agrees with me. You know? Again, he walks away because the system wanted him, because he had been captured by both, at that time, NASA and
Jubilee.
Is it Jubilee? NASA and Jubilee. They had captured him. So if you are there, Chebukati, for me, to be honest with you, it disappoints me, City, because I would rather you even become the chairman of IEBC today. I would have a lot of respect.
So that you can call me clueless as well.
No. because I think on a balance, because on a balance of probability, I think you are highly likely to actually apply the law fairly. And you see, for someone like Chebukati, who is supposed to be a lawyer and at the level of a Supreme Court judge, and he cannot just read. But this constitution, when we wrote this constitution in 2010, we adapted what's called plain English, so that you don't actually have to. You don't have those legalese. Yeah? You don't have those Latin words and in the constitution. It's plain English. Exactly. So it's plain English, which means anybody can actually read it, even for you Mkenya wa kawaida. But now when you have got a lawyer who cannot read, a simple provision called Article 137 or 83 sub Article 3 that says do not make the participation of a Kenyan complicated or technical, because you are frustrating Article 37 and Article 38 of the Constitution of Kenya. Surely it's betrayal for me of the highest order when a lawyer who we trust, there's some residual trust we have in people who are knowledgeable. Like the way now I look at you guys as commentators, I expect you running this media house, SpiceFM, to actually educate Kenyans.
And
help Kenyans understand things. So that's the fiduciary duty.
Yeah.
I bestow upon you, City. So if you betray that, then come on, I can call you anything. Clueless,
so that
stooge,
you are
puppet.
saying
Wacha
that
tumalize
hiyo. Unajua, we still want an election bila noma.
Yes.
And you seem determined that in bringing to book and questioning things that you think are unconstitutional is the right path to an election bila noma.
Unajua, City, I don't know whether I said it in your show here or another time. If a thief enters your house and you realize that actually there is a thief inside your house, is it too late for you to shout and call for help?
No.
Nope.
It's not. So even at the 11th hour, if this election is not held in accordance with the law, remember, Justice David Maraga, emeritus, said that you must follow the law and the constitution in managing the election. So if the law and the constitution is not followed in the management of an election, we should not go on with an illegality, because we are writing a wrong. We are writing an illegality.
Okay.
Tafadhali bana.
EKURU, thank you for coming.
Meshukuru, but you know what? Next time, please bring me with clueless Chebukati in this show.
Why? He's clueless.
So let's because he's occupying a public office, and because of his actions, Eric, this country could go into violence because of one individual's actions. You remember Kivuitu? Kivuitu said what in 2007, 2008? I do not know who won the election. And violence erupted. So we cannot go that way.
We'll invite him.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.